Monty Ollie, I was wondering if you could synopsize in plain English what exactly happened with the Monique Rathbun case in Texas. The legalese is very hard to understand, and I'm not sure why they dropped the case. And the Mott's 55. What do you think of Steve Mango's recent criticism of Marty Rathbun? Also, why do you think Monique stopped her lawsuit against the Church of Scientology? One post claims Marty is now defending David Miscavige. Things seem so bizarre. What are your insights? Okay, well, there's a lot to know and talk about in regards to this, so I'm going to synopsize this. Okay, I don't want to spend forever on it. Marty Rathbun and his wife Monique, well, Marty Rathbun is an ex-Scientologist from the highest levels of Scientology. He was literally second in command under David Miscavige for a lengthy period of time. And he engaged in, while being in Scientology at that high level, he did, some things that were pretty unsavory. We all did when we were in Scientology, so I'm not trying to single him out. But he was involved in very upper level stuff, and so to an extent I don't even know. So he came out, and it was a real big deal when he came out of Scientology in the mid-2000s, and he started doing independent Scientology auditing of others from his house in Texas. He met Monique Rathbun, who was never a Scientologist. He met Monique, rather, and they got married, and she became Monique Rathbun. The Church of Scientology started stalking and harassing them because Marty was doing independent Scientology auditing, and David Miscavige didn't like that. And so they sent people out to his place. They called themselves Squirrel Busters. They had shirts. They were literally for months on end harassing and stalking the Rathbuns, and it was pretty ugly. And in fact, seeing video of that, because it was posted online, was one of the things that I saw when I was still in that shocked me. I could not believe what I was seeing. There was nowhere in any Scientology issues that I had ever seen in all the years that I'd been in that made it okay to do what these Squirrel Busters were doing. It was unbelievable to me. And I knew in seeing it that it had to be a church-sanctioned operation. There was no way some random Scientologists were just going to get together and go stalk and harass Marty Rathbun. No way, right? So that really shocked me, and that was a real eye-opener for me when I was still in. Okay, so now, because of all that stalking and harassment, Monique Rathbun filed a lawsuit in Texas against the Church of Scientology to get them to stop. And that's really the bottom line, is she was just trying to get Scientology to stop doing that. And in the process of discovery and moving this thing forward, it never did get to trial. It was in discovery and pre-trial motions and all that sort of thing. During the course of that, the church did stop the harassment to a degree. I mean, they didn't have people standing outside their house with Squirrel Buster shirts, but there was evidence found that the church was still filming them. They had rented properties, near their house and was spying on them still and this sort of thing. And Marty documented all of this. So they had this team of lawyers down in Texas, and they were suing the church, and things were moving along slowly, because any legal action against the Church of Scientology is going to move slowly. The church will engage in every single delay tactic they can, and anything and everything they can do to just chew up your time and money. So this was moving along, but the motions and the actions and the things that occurred while the trial was moving on were all mainly in Monique's favor. And it looked like there had been some appeals to, by the judge, various things had gone back and forth. But every time there was, an appeal, or every time there was a question, it looked like it was going in Monique's favor, and it looks like they had a very strong case. They even tried to get David Miscavige into the courtroom to depose him. And they didn't get the judge's agreement to order David Miscavige to appear in person, but they did get the judge to order that he had to submit a deposition in writing, and they were going to ask him questions, and he was going to submit his answers that way. Which that never happened because the case got inexplicably dropped. The lawyers were fired, and Monique, just dropped the case. And this left a lot of people scratching their heads. Nobody could really understand why. And there hasn't been a clear-cut statement from Marty on his blog or otherwise explaining why that was done. And I believe there's been one or two insinuations that He can't necessarily give all the information as to why. I do not understand that particularly. I'm not saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm saying I don't know what he's talking about. I can't understand why some statement couldn't be made that clearly in plain English explains why they decided to drop the case. But for whatever reason, they did. Certainly within their rights to do so. They're not under any obligation to explain themselves either. But it did leave great big question marks. And then Marty Rathbun has been posting blog articles basically criticizing or critical of the anti-Scientology community, as he calls it, ASC. He even has an abbreviation for it, the anti-Scientology community. Basically accusing people who are speaking out against the church and critics of the church as being cult members themselves under, Tony Ortega, who's a journalist. He's accused, people who follow Tony Ortega as being part of a cyber cult. And he's sort of taken the anti-Scientology community that he was very much involved in and very much a part of, and is now calling them out and saying that they're bad people, or at least cult-like people, and making value judgments about them that of course, most people in the ex-Scientology community, whether they're ex-Scientologists themselves or people who follow or watch it because they're fascinated or interested in it, he started, bad-mouthing them. And this has been even more inexplicable for a lot of people. I don't know why he's doing that. I got no idea. I watched Steve Mango's criticism of Marty. I watched the video that Steve Mango made. Marty, in addition to coming down on church critics like Tony Ortega, has also come down very hard in a recent blog article against Louis Theroux. Louis Theroux is a British documentarian. He has produced a movie called My Scientology Movie. Marty Rathbun plays a very significant role in that movie. Somewhere along the line, it appears, both from Stephen's description and Marty's descriptions, that there was some kind of falling out or disagreement, or Marty saw that this production was not doing what he thought it was going to do. He got very upset by this. There were on-set arguments and yelling and screaming and this sort of thing, according to Stephen Mango. And so there was this big disagreement, and Marty has now been poo-pooing the movie itself and Louis Theroux and accusing them of various things, which you can see on Marty's blog if you want to. And basically sort of decrying the movie and any sort of distancing himself from it. And Stephen Mango is saying, look, Marty was fully on board. He was there. Everything that happened because, that's how he wanted it to happen. And so, but Stephen also described and detailed that there were on-set arguments, and Marty seemed to have this falling out with Louis Theroux. So that's all I know about that. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved in the production in any way, and I'm not, privy to any backlines or hidden or secret communications about Marty. So I have to say that I simply don't know. And I have avoided getting involved in it or talking about it because of the fact that I don't know. And so any opinions I have about it are really would be sort of, it would be a little ridiculous for me to start forwarding, any, half-assed ideas I have as to why Marty has taken the actions that he's taken. I have no idea. So I'm not going to, theorize on them here. I'm just going to fall back to the three most important words I know in critical thinking, which is I don't know. So I will say, and I've said before, and this is not a new philosophy for me, it's something I've had from day one, is I've observed over the last couple of years since I got out of Scientology that there's some people who come out of Scientology who have a kind of, or there's upsets and things that occur between ex-Scientologists in the same way that there are upsets and disagreements and problems that occur in any human group, any group of people. right? There are going to be, we don't all just get along. We don't all see things the same way. We don't all, have the eye-to-eye thing on Scientology. Some of us come out of Scientology thinking that it was really good stuff, helped us a lot. Hubbard was the bad guy, or maybe it was all Miscavige's fault. And you get, various shades of ideas, opinions, and attitudes about Scientology. And so we don't all share that same view. I don't know that there's any one view that all ex-Scientologists have, except that they don't want to be involved with the Church of Scientology formally for whatever reason. All of those reasons are multivaried, right? So therefore, when looking at how do you talk about the church, what do you think about the church, what do you think about recovering from the Church of Scientology and your experience there, different ideas, different attitudes about it, and sometimes these different ideas result in real conflicts. People get really passionate about this, and there have been some pretty hardcore fights that have gone on through message boards, through Facebook, through blogs, and telephone conversations and whatnot. And some of these things are a bit more spectacular than others. I try not to involve myself in that. My idea is that the Church of Scientology is a big enough foe or opponent all by itself for us to direct our attention on and to expose the lies and corruption and nonsense that goes on in Scientology so that we can educate people to avoid it like the plague. That's pretty much the only reason I'm talking about it. And, I love to, try to get people out of it who are in it. And if my work has done that, and it has, then I consider it successful. And I try to warn people off of it. And my work has successfully done that too. So that's why I'm doing this. And I'm not doing it to fight other people. I don't want to get engaged in conflict with other critics, because I'm not here to be involved in conflicts with other critics. To me, everybody's got their own views and their own ideas. They have a right to their own views and ideas. And I might, like I do with pretty much how I feel about anything when it comes to ideas, I have a right to look at somebody else's ideas and criticize or critique or analyze or ridicule those ideas. That's not necessarily the same thing as ridiculing or criticizing the individual, right? There's an idea and there's the individual, and they are two different things. And I try to, put that gap there and look at the idea, not the person. So that's been my mode of operation on this, and that's why you haven't seen me talking about this conflict or other conflicts between critics, because it's not my thing, not at all what I want to do or what I'm about. And that is pretty much everything I have to say about that. So there you go.